education interview
with Sunny and Amanda.
with Sunny and Amanda. We need the theme music. Dun, 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 dun. My first guest today is Amanda, who is a PhD student, and we will find out exactly what her interests and what her study area will be. Hi, Amanda, welcome.
Hello, thank you.
What is your topic you want to research?
I'm looking at how to make classrooms more inclusive. Being more specific with that, I'm looking at French immersion classrooms through the lens of SOGI or like the queer community.
Very interesting. And why is it that you resonate with this topic?
Well, growing up, I went to a Catholic school, and so like none of these things existed. And becoming an educator is where I like was really exploring like my own identity as a queer person and seeing like, well, our systems are not built for people like us, and even if they say they are, they aren't quite. And then when you get into French immersion classrooms where it's a gendered language, there's no space for gender neutrality. So teachers are a lot more hesitant to explore that because like l'Académie Française says like no, like gender neutrality is a contamination of the French language. So it's just how do we make space for these queer kids that do exist in our classrooms.
Especially in French language.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. And what is your, well, you kind of explained your own experience of being in a Catholic system and not being able to be part of the queer people's community and explore that in the school system. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, like because like the Catholic school system is very like gay people don't exist, and like you can't like people of the same gender, or like it's either gender A or gender B, and like there's no other option. And so like as a kid I knew that there was like something different about me, but like there was no term to identify it or name it, and so there was just a sense of like conflict, like inner conflict throughout my entire educational experience and like with my family. And then being an educator where we're seeing like, okay, we're having like queer kids in like our public school systems that are out and open and we see mosquitoes everywhere.
Sorry everyone. That's gonna go in the bloopers.
Yeah. But like seeing that like these people exist was like, oh my gosh, like there are words for who I am, and it's like, okay, like I'm having like my whole like identity crisis, but like a good identity crisis like in my 30s. And if I had known sooner, I think like education wouldn't have been as stressful and like icky feeling that whole time.
Yeah, and education doesn't have to be about just knowledge base.
Yeah.
It's where children come to start building who they are and identifying themselves, and how do we create that space for everybody so everyone is able to experience that inclusion. Thank you. And are there any recent experiences that have highlighted the need for this research? You talked about your childhood.
Yeah, so once I moved out to BC, I got involved in our SOGI world, and SOGI is like sexual orientation, gender identity. And I became a rep for our school and was chosen to represent our district for the Vancouver Island SOGI Summit. And there we were able to hear from queer students that were in middle school, and they talked about what they wish their experience had been like in elementary school. And it's like they didn't know like gay was a thing, and like they just wish that they had that vocab too. And then another educator had said like kids can't be what they can't see. And so like how do we make that like how do we provide that visibility as educators so that students, like whether it's like are queer kids or racialized kids, like how do they feel represented and safe enough to share in our spaces?
I really like that phrase, kids can't be
what they
can't see.
Yeah,
for sure. And how do you hope that this research will impact others?
Again, like it's hoping that like kids feel safe. Like as an educator, it just comes down to the kids in our classroom. Hopefully that's like through policy changes where educators are getting the education they need in order to provide for their kids. But like the end goal is kids are seen, kids are heard, kids are valued.
Yeah, safety and let kids be kids. And thank you. What action do you hope to see coming from this work?
Well, assuming that it's not going to be kids reading this work, I'm hoping that it would be seen at like the higher like policy making level. And so I know districts currently have policies in place that are supposed to be like harassment-free zones, but nothing, like no actions are associated with those words.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that there's tangible resources and ideas given to these policymakers so that policy is more than just words on paper.
Mm-hmm. And what problem do you feel is being addressed by this study?
Again, it's the representation, voices being heard, voices being valued. We do pronoun introductions, but then people are misgendered all the time. So like to actually know why we're doing what we're doing, why these policies are there, and what does that actually look like as educators in the space.
So it's more than just telling people we need to, use the correct pronouns, but why do we do that, and helping them understand the background, right? You kind of talked about what is it that you want to know. Do you want to tell us more about that?
Well, I'm curious to know like what are current like queer kids' experiences like in their classrooms, or thinking like of myself as a queer adult, what was my experience like? Like, are there others? Like, are there others like me? Like, what were their experiences like? What did it feel like for like that first positive experience? Like, when did that happen? How did it happen? Just really get to know like what is like the queer experience in schools from like the kids' point of view and adults' point of view.
Yeah. Okay, so then are you going to research then? Who are you going to research specifically? You talk about children.
So I think it'll be tough to like ask kids, like just thinking from like the ethics point of view and how that would look. So my goal would be to work with educators, or if there are like parents or families in like the local community that want to share about their experiences. So really these, like I'm assuming adult people will be who I'm talking to, that could give an idea of like the kid's point of view based on their own experiences as a kid.
Yeah, and you can also explore other possibilities with other people, right?
Yeah.
Through ethics. So.
Yeah.
Finally, what genre would you like to use for your research methodology?
Well, I was told that autoethnography might be the route, but the métissage also seems like it would be appropriate because you're taking different stories to create one piece.
Yeah, and find the theme.
Yeah.
Which one do you resonate most with?
With like themes, you mean?
No, like the autoethnography versus...
Like I think the métissage is exciting because it seems more artistic, and there's not often like that opportunity to be artistic with this type of work.
Yeah.
But the feasibility of it might be the question. But that's, I don't know, to be explored.
Thank
To be
you.
explored.
Well, that's it, folks. See you next time.